Chapter 5, River Rats. It was drizzling when the children awoke in the morning. They sat up and looked out into the river. A river boat was pulling slowly upstream. Two men worked steadily on the oars to move it against the current. The open boat was piled high with potatoes and cabbages, going to market, no doubt. "Oof, wish I could have one of them," said Jack. "I'm starving." In the distance they could see several other boats on the water, people starting their day to the sour smell of coal smoke in the London air. "Oh no, our fire's gone out," moaned Amy as she pulled her shawl around her shoulders, "and the street lamps will have been put out by now. We can't even get another light until tonight." "It's not my fault," said Jack. "You could have gotten up in the night and put on more wood yourself. There's plenty of it." "I didn't say it was your fault. I just said we don't have fire." "Sounded like you were blaming me," complained Jack. "Well, I wasn't. So what's the matter with you this morning?" "I'm just hungry," said Jack. Tears came to his eyes. "And I want Mama. Why did she have to die?" Amy put her arms around him, and together the two children cried. Finally, Amy sniffed and wiped her face with her shawl. "But we can't give up, Jack. We just can't." "But what are we going to do?" "This morning you have to go find that Salvation Army woman. What was her name?" "You mean the one the tailor said was Uncle Cedric's customer? Booth something, wasn't it?" "Yes, Booth. Catherine Booth. You have to go find her, Jack. Catherine Booth. Don't forget that name." "But why not you?" In answer, Amy stuck out her foot and pointed to her ankle. "I really can't walk, Jack. There's no way I can wander around the city until I get better." "What about the river?" said Jack. "What if this rain makes it rise and floods you out like you said?" "It's not rising yet. Look at those rocks. The water's even lower." She nodded over to the piling around which they had to climb every time they came into the cave. "You know, unless there's a real big rain or spring floods, I think the only thing that changes the water level in this river is the tide." Jack looked suspiciously at the pile of trash. "The tide? But that comes from the sea every day, twice a day. We've already been here the whole night, one whole night, and there hasn't been any high tide. No, I'm talking about big tides, the kind that come once a month. Maybe they come up the river this far. I don't know." "Yeah, maybe. That's how all this junk got here. It floated here sometime when the river was high enough to come up into this very cave, and we don't know when that's going to happen." "Well, it's not going to happen today," said Amy. "I'll tell you what, you go looking for Catherine Booth, and if it starts raining hard, you can come back here and help me out." That seemed to satisfy Jack, and he got up to leave. And I have to change something here, sorry. Part way out into the river there was another set of pillars holding up the huge bridge. Up near the top, in the shadows of the beams, Jack noticed movement. He looked closely and then realized what it was. A rat was crawling along the beam, possibly the very one that had hidden their pile of driftwood the night before. Jack stooped down and found 3 stones in the sand. Carefully he eased over the side of the cave to get a better angle. The rat was in full view now, stopping every few moments and looking around. Suddenly, Jack let fly with a rough, oblong stone. It was a long throw, but Jack was a good shot. The stone whizzed just over the rat's head. The ugly creature bounded forward a few feet, then stopped and looked around, its round rump high and its beady eyes shining. Apparently the rat was uncertain what had happened or where its enemy was. That moment of hesitation was all Jack needed. He took aim and flung a second stone with all his might. It sailed through the air and found its mark, hitting with a thud that knocked the rat off the beam and into the river. "You got him, Jack?" "Yeah." Jack stared at the place where the rat had splashed into the water. In a few moments, something floated to the surface and drifted lifelessly down the stream. "Yeah, I got him good." In his excitement, Jack flung his third rock out over the river in the general direction of where the rat had been. But because he hadn't aimed, the stone flew beyond the pillar and landed on the front of a boat that had just nosed out from behind the pillar. "Hey, what's the big idea?" yelled a burly voice as a huge sailor stood up in the boat. His partner continued rowing. "What you brats trying to do? You want to kill someone? I have a mind to come in there and thrash the both of you." "We didn't mean to," answered Amy. "Hey, Rodney," said the one at the oars. "It's a girl." "Yeah, and just about the right age, too. But we got to get back to the ship. We'll take care of this later." Then he yelled again at Amy and Jack. You throw any more rocks at us and I'll bust your heads." "We won't," said Jack. "You bet you won't, and we'll be back to see that you don't too." They laughed with a roar as the big man sat down clumsily and took up his oars. Soon they were far down the river. "That was a close one," said Jack. "I almost got 2 river rats," and he laughed. "Don't joke about it, Jack. Those were evil men." "You don't think they'll be back, do you, Amy?" "Who knows? They probably go back and forth from their ship every day when they're in port. We'll just have to attract no more attention. Now you go on, Jack. See if you can find that Booth lady." "But I'm starving, Amy. When are we going to get something to eat?" "I don't know. I'm hungry too. Maybe you can ask someone to give you some bread when you're out." "Yeah, maybe so. I'll bring you back something," said Jack as he worked his way round the rocks at the bottom of the piling. "I promise that I'll get you something."